भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्ति भवति नैष्टिकी। हरे कृष्ण, दंडवत प्रणाम। Now we continuing Srimad Bhagwatam, Canto 11, Chapter 20, explanation of the Vedic. Explanation of the pure devotional service. Shloka number 15 to 15, not 15, 25 to 30. Yadi kuryat pramadena yogi karma vigaritam yogena eva dahet amah na anyat tatra kadachana swese adhikare yanishta saguna parikirtitah कर्मणाम जाति अशुद्ध नाम अनेन नियमः कृतः गुण दोष विधानेन संगानाम त्याजन इच्छया जात श्रद्धा मत कथासु निर्विन्न सर्व कर्मसु वेद दुख आत्मकान कामान प्रत्यागे अपि अनीश्वरः ततः भजेत मां प्रीतः श्रद्धालुः दृढ़ निश्चयः जुषमाण च तान् कामान् दुख उदरकान् च गर्हन्। प्रोक्तेन भक्ति योगेन भजत सकृत मुनेः कामाः हृदया नश्यन्ति सर्वे मयि हृदि स्थिते विद्यते हृदय ग्रन्थिः छिद्यन्ते सर्व संशयाः क्षीयन्ते च कर्माणि मयि दृष्ट अखिल आत्मनि। ट्रांसलेशन एंड परपट बाय द श्रीला प्रभुपाद, जगत गुरु श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। If because of momentary inattention a yogi accidentally commits an abominable activity, then by the very practice of yoga he should burn to ashes the sinful reaction without at any time employing any other procedures. It is firmly declared that the steady adherence of transcendentalists to their respective spiritual position constitutes real piety, and that sin occurs when a transcendentalist neglects his prescribed duty. One who adopts this standard of piety and sin, sincerely desiring to give up all past association with sense gratification, is able to subdue materialistic activities which are by nature impure. Having awakened faith in the narrations of my glories, being disgusted with all material activities, knowing that all sense gratification leads to misery, but still being unable to renounce all such enjoyment, my devotee should remain happy and worship me with great faith and conviction. Even though he is sometimes engaged in sense enjoyment, my devotee knows that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result, and he sincerely repents such activities. When an intelligent person engages constantly in worshipping me through loving devotional service as described by me, his heart becomes firmly situated in me. Thus, all material desires within the heart are destroyed. The knot in the heart is pierced. All misgivings are cut to pieces, and the chain of fruitive actions is terminated when I am seen as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport by the Srila Prabhupada, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The word yogen here indicates jnanena yogena and bhaktya yogena, since these two transcendental systems have the power to burn sinful reaction to ashes. It should be clearly understood that the word saha or sin here refers to an accidental fall down against one's desire. Premeditated exploitation of the mercy of the Lord can never be excused. Significantly, the Lord forbids any extraneous purificatory rites, since the transcendental yoga system are themselves the most purifying processes, especially bhakti yoga. If one gives up one's regular prescribed duties or to perform a special ritual or penance, trying to purify a sinful reaction, then one will be guilty of the additional fault of giving up one's prescribed duties. One should pick oneself up from an accidental fall down and go on vigorously with one's prescribed duties in life without being unnecessarily discouraged. One should certainly lament and feel ashamed, or there will be no purification. However, if one becomes overly depressed at an accidental fall down, one will not have the enthusiasm to go on to perfection. Lord Krishna also stated in the Bhagavad Gita 9.30, Apechet sudurachara bhajate mam ananya bhaka sadhu eva samantavyaha samyak vyavasita hisa. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated. The most important point is that one should be properly engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. For then, the Lord will excuse and purify an accidental fall down. One should, however, be most cautious to avoid such unhappy event. Lord Krishna here explains more clearly that those person directly engaged in self-realization, either through Jnana Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, need not give up their regular duties and perform special penances to atone for an accidental fall down. The actual purpose of Vedic literature is to direct one back to Godhead and not to encourage material sense gratification. Although the Vedas recommend innumerable rituals for promotion to heavenly planets and enjoyment of all varieties of material opulence, such materialistic rewards are meant only to engage materialistic people who otherwise would become demoniac. To purify accidental fall down, one who is engaged in transcendental realization need not adopt any procedure beyond his own spiritual practice. The words Sanganam Tejan Ichaya indicates that one should not practice Krishna consciousness or self-realization superficially or causally. Rather, one should sincerely and earnestly desire freedom from one's past sinful world. Similarly, the word Yanishta indicate that one must constantly practice Krishna consciousness. Thus, essential piety is to give up material sense gratification and engage in the loving service of the Lord. One who engages his senses, mind, and intelligence 24 hours a day in the Lord's service is the most pious person, and the Lord personally protects such a surrendered soul. The beginning stage of pure devotional service is described here by the Lord. A sincere devotee has practically seen that all material activities lead only to sense gratification, and all sense gratification leads only to misery. Thus, a devotee's sincere desire is to engage 24 hours a day in the loving service of the Lord Krishna without any personal motivation. The devotee sincerely desires to be established in his constitutional position as the Lord's eternal servitor, and he prays to the Lord to elevate him to this exalted position. The word Anishwar indicates that because of one's past sinful activities and bad habits, one may not immediately be able to completely extinguish the enjoying spirit. The Lord here encourages such a devotee not to be overly depressed or morose, but to remain enthusiastic and to go on with his loving service. The word Nirvana indicates that a sincere devotee, although somewhat entangled in the remnants of sense gratification, is completely disgusted with material life and under no circumstances willingly commits sinful activities. In fact, he avoids every kind of materialistic activity. The word Kaman basically refers to sex attraction and its byproducts in the form of children, home, and so forth. Within the material world, the sex impulse is so strong that Even a sincere candidate in the loving service of the Lord may sometimes be disturbed by sex attraction or by lingering sentiments for wife and children. A pure devotee certainly feels spiritual affection for all living entities, including the so-called wife and children. But he knows that material bodily attraction leads to no good, for it simply entangles one and one so-called relatives in a miserable chain reaction of reputed activities. The word Druda Nishchay, steadfast conviction, indicates that in any circumstance, a devotee is completely determined to go on with his prescribed duties for Krishna. Thus he thinks, by my previous shameful life, my heart is polluted with many illusory attachments. Personally, I have no power to stop them. Only Lord Krishna within my heart can remove such inauspicious contamination. But whether the Lord removes such attachment immediately or lets me go on being afflicted by them, I will never give up my devotional service to Him, even if the Lord places millions of obstacles in my path, and even if because of my offenses I go to hell. I will never for a moment stop serving Lord Krishna. I am not interested in mental speculation and fruity activities. Even if Lord Brahma personally comes before me offering such engagements, I will not be even slightly interested. Although I am attached to material things, I can see very clearly that they lead to no good because they simply give me trouble and disturb my devotional service to the Lord. Therefore, I sincerely repent my foolish attachment to so many material things, and I am patiently awaiting Lord Krishna's mercy. The word Prita indicates that a devotee feels exactly like the son or subject of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is very attached to his relationship with the Lord. Therefore, although sincerely lamenting occasional lapses into sense enjoyment, he never gives up his enthusiasm to serve Lord Krishna. If a devotee becomes too morose or discouraged in devotional service, he may drift into an impersonal consciousness or give up his devotional service to the Lord. Therefore, the Lord here advises that although one should sincerely repent, he should not become chronically depressed. One should understand that because of his past sins, he must occasionally suffer disturbances from the material mind and senses, but one should not therefore become a devotee of detachment, as do the speculative philosophers. Although one may desire detachment to purify one's devotional service to the Lord, if one becomes more concerned with renunciation than with acting for the pleasure of Lord Krishna, he is misunderstanding the position of loving devotional service. Faith in Lord Krishna is so powerful that in due course of time, it will automatically award detachment and perfect knowledge. If one gives up Lord Krishna as the central object of one's worship and concentrates more on knowledge and detachment, one will become deviated from one's progress in going back home, back to Godhead. A sincere devotee of the Lord must be sincerely convinced that simply by the strength of devotional service and the mercy of the Lord Krishna, he will achieve everything auspicious in life. One must believe that Lord Krishna is all merciful and that he is the only real goal of one's life. Such determined faith, combined with a sincere desire to give up sense enjoyment, will carry one past the obstacles of this world. The word Jata Shraddha, Mata Kathasu are most significant here. By faithful hearing of the mercy and glories of the Lord, one will gradually be freed from all material desire and clearly see at every moment the utter frustration of sense gratification. Chanting the glories of the Lord with firm faith and conviction is a tremendously powerful spiritual process that enables one to give up all material association. There is actually nothing inauspicious in the devotional service of the Lord. Occasional difficulties experienced by devotee are due to his previous material activities. On the other hand, the endeavor or sense gratification is completely inauspicious. The sense gratification and devotional service are directly opposed to each other. In all circumstances, one should therefore remain the Lord's sincere servant, always believing in his mercy. Then one will certainly go back home, back to God. The material senses are engaged in gratifying the concoction of the mind, causing many types of material desires to become prominent one after another. One who constantly engages in the devotional service of the Lord by hearing and chanting the Lord's transcendental glories with firm faith gets relief from the harassment of material desire by serving the Lord. One becomes strengthened in the conviction that Krishna is the only actual enjoyer and all others are meant to share the Lord's pleasure through devotional service. A duty of the Lord situates Sri Krishna on a beautiful throne within his heart and there offers the Lord constant service, uh, just as the rising sun gradually eliminates all trace of darkness. The Lord descends within the heart, causes all material desires there to waken and eventually disappear. The words Mayvridi Sthite, when the heart is situated in it, indicates that an advanced duty sees Lord Krishna not only within his own heart, but within the hearts of a living creature. Thus, a sincere devotee will chant and hears the glories of Sri Krishna. Should not be discouraged by the remnants of material desire within the heart. He should faithfully wait for the devotional process to naturally purify the heart of contamination. Hridaya Granthi indicates that one's heart is bound to illusion by false identification with the material world, material body. One thus becomes absorbed in material sex pleasure, dreaming of innumerable combination of male and female bodies. A person intoxicated by sex attraction cannot understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the reservoir of all pleasure and the supreme enjoyer. When a devotee achieves steadiness in devotional service, feeling transcendental pleasure at every moment in the execution of his loving service to the Lord, the knot of false identification is pierced and all his misgivings are cut to pieces. In illusion, we imagine that the living entity cannot be fully satisfied without material sense gratification and speculative doubting of the absolute truth. Materialistic person considers sense enjoyment and speculative doubting to be essential for civilized life. A pure devotee, however, realizes that the Lord Krishna is an unlimited ocean of happiness and the personification of all knowledge. This realization of Lord Krishna completely eradicates the twin tendencies of the sense gratification and mental speculation. Thus, the chain of free activities are karma automatically collapses, just as a fire collapses and goes out when its fuel is removed. Advanced devotional service automatically awards one liberation from material bondage, as confirmed by the Lord Kapila. Jarayati asu ya kosham Nigirnam Anala Yatha. Bhakti devotional service dissolves the subtle body of the living entity without separate efforts, just as the fire in the stomach digests all that we eat. Bhagavatam 3.25.33. Srila Prabhupada state in his purport to this verse, a devotee does not have to try separately to attain liberation. That very service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the process of liberation, because to engage oneself in the service of the Lord is to liberate oneself from material entanglement. Sri Bilvamangal Thakur explained this position very nicely. He said, if I have unflinching devotion unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, then mukti or liberation serves me as my maidservant. Mukti, the maidservant, is always ready to do whatever I ask. For a devotee, liberation is no problem at all. Liberation takes place without separate endeavor. Thus end the purpose now. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Ena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Tapadakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavancha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Tam सजीवं सहाद्वैतम सावधूतम परिजन सहितम कृष्ण चैतन्य देवम श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांच नमो ओम विष्णु पादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यः एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Now from so many days we are hearing about the pure devotional services means and how we do pure service of the Lord, how we take the shelter of the Lord. And when we take the shelter of the Lord, then Lord do everything for us. We are seeing in these shlokas. Now Prabhuji will tell you in detail. Hare Krishna Dandat Pranam.
Krishna says that even a momentary inattention results in a complete fall down for a yogi, wherein he can commit an activity which is not right. But then Krishna also gives a solution. He says that by the practice of yoga itself, we should be able to burn the ashes of the sinful reaction. That is what Krishna is saying. If you are having steady adherence to respective spiritual positions, then that is piousness. And sin is something when we are neglecting our prescribed duty. So whatever be our prescribed duty on a material as well as spiritual platform, we have to do it. So when you are a husband, you have your duties towards wife. When you are a wife, you have your duties towards your husband. When you are a mother, you have a duty to your children. When you are a child, you have a duty to your parents, and so on and so forth. And above all these, as a soul, you have a duty towards the super soul. So we have to have steady adherence to a spiritual position. And one who is able to adopt this standard of piety and sin, we can desire to give up all past association, and we'll be able to subdue the materialistic activities which are by nature impure to a multiple aspect. And thus we have to awaken the faith by narration of the glories of Sri Krishna. Give up all the material activities, knowing that all sense gratification leads to his misery, and renounce all sense enjoyment. We should remain happy, worship Krishna with great faith and conviction. Even though we may at times, while we are doing our respective duties, be seen as engaging in sense enjoyment, still we know that this leads to miserable result. And so we repent such activity. And thus, we should engage constantly in worshipping Krishna with pure prema bhakti. Our heart will become firmly situated in Krishna. All the material desires will get destroyed. And the knot in the heart, the Hridaya Kranti, that will be pierced. All misgivings will be cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions will be terminated. When we see Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead, that has to be the objective of our living, of our sadhana, and of our bhakti, so that we achieve the ultimate objective of our life, which is Krishna. And how do we achieve it? By ABCD: association of devotees, reading of the scriptures, chanting vigorously, sincerely, taking only Krishna Prasadam as diet, involving in deity worship as a grihastha, engaging in some kind of a service or the other, always to devotees, to Krishna and the Guru, and thus go back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna.